welcome back. Here we are to continue talking about our weather app and React, and the topic for this project, besides loading data from the API, was also working with conditional components, right, or components that display conditionally. And in this case, we have this weather display component right here that represents these three lines, and sometimes it's not there, we don't see anything. And then when we load some data, then it shows up, right? So how does that work, right? Well, in the previous video, we used this kind of structure here, which, we look at this variable data, and if it has some truthy value, and then we display this thing over here. So really what we're saying is, like, both sides of the double ampersand have to be true, and then JavaScript's going to evaluate and return, or give us this second item, right? So if this is true, then this is a truthy value also, and this is what gets displayed. And that's one technique you can use, right? So this one's pretty simple. The idea, though, is this is kind of either, it's like a light switch. We're either going to display this component or we're not going to display anything, right? So we either get this weather display component or we get nothing, okay? And that's pretty good for some situations, but in other situations, you might want to have an alternative, like an alternative component, right? So, I might want to display this, or I might have another component or something that I want to show in place of this when data is not available. Okay, so let's take a look at that. I'm going to comment this out, right? So we'll hide that for a moment. So now that's gone, right? Let's refresh this so there's no data here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put the curly brackets in there so we can have an expression in our JSX block. And this time I'm going to say data. So this is saying, like, hey, if data is a truthy value, question mark, and then I'm going to put the colon also. So this is called the ternary operator, right? So it's like a single line if-else statement, right? So the idea is, if we have a truthy expression here, then we can display something here. Let's do an example. Like, what if we said, we would put a paragraph here and we say 2 plus 2 equals 4, right? And then over here I'm going to say paragraph, and then I'll do let's say 2 plus 3 does not equal 4, okay? And over here, I'm going to say, 2 plus 2, right? So if I say 2 plus 2 here, then it's going to say 2 plus 2 equals 4, and we get the first element, okay? If I say 2 plus 2, actually, I did 2 plus 2. That's a truthy value, right? Let me change it. 2 plus 2 equals 4, like this, right? So let me save that, right? Yeah, so that equals 4. What if I said 2 plus 3, right? Then it's going to say 2 plus 3 does not equal 4, right? So this expression here is going to evaluate to false, because the computer's going to add these two numbers up and get 5, and then it's going to say 5 does not equal 4, right? So we're going to get 2 plus 3 does not equal 4. If I put 4 over here, if I put 2 plus 2, and then the computer evaluated that to 4, then it's going to say, okay, well, now let's evaluate this comparison operator. Does 4 equal 4? And it will say, true, yes, it does. And then we'll get the expression here, right? Or we'll get this, it'll display this block of JSX, right? So here is my if right here. If the statement is true, we get the item after the question mark. And if the statement here, the expression, is false, we get the item after the colon, okay? So that's kind of like an if-else statement that you can write on one line. And you could put that anywhere, right? So you could say, let me write it this way. If I did an if like this, and if I said, if, 2 plus 2 equals 4, then we could do something here. True, right? And then else, I could say that's false, Oh, let's do this. 2 plus 2 equals 4, and down here I could say 2, actually, let's just say equals 4, right? And then down here I'll say does not equal 4, So there's our if-else statement, and we could boil this same thing down to, 2 plus 2 equals 4, question mark, and then say, maybe console log, I gotta have some kind of expression here, right? So console log 4, and then over here I can say colon, console log not 4, right? So this is kind of the same thing that we have up here. The difference is that this takes up 3 or 4 or 5 lines, and this is on a single line, right? Then you can use that ternary operator anywhere in JavaScript. It's a standard JavaScript thing. Okay, so anyway, we can use that here in our app, right? So let's apply that. So if we don't have any data, then what do we want to show, right? Actually, that'll be over here, right? So if we don't have any data, we'll just say ready, How about that? Maybe an uppercase R there, right? Oh, look, our app is totally ready, right? If we want to load the data, then we can just grab this weather display component right here and show that right there, right? So, it says ready when it's ready to load some data, and then I can say 94122 or something, and then submit, and then it's going to show me this weather component when the data loads. Okay, so anyway, so that's a kind of a little expansion on the idea of the ternary operator and conditional rendering. And again, you can apply that anywhere. So when we look at the weather display component, we could have used it here also. Okay, so I could have turned this into a ternary, but I kind of felt like this was a lot of space right there, so I used the if statement here and return instead. And for me, I felt this looked like was more had more clarity to read. So it's kind of up to you which statement you're going to choose, right, and how you're going to approach it. In this case, the if else would have been pretty cumbersome to squeeze into this block, right? So the ternary was kind of faster and easier to use there. Okay, so anyway, thanks for watching, and that's like a little more information about conditional rendering. And just for your information here, I think there's a link to this in the lesson stuff, but I'll go there right now. I'm going to say React conditional render, right? And you can find all sorts of articles on this, 7 ways to implement conditional rendering, right? Okay, conditional rendering in React. This is from react.js, right? So, or react.org. So if you go here, they give you, this is from the source, right? This is the React team, what they have to say about it. And they have a few techniques in here, right? And then there's more too. So, so pretty much, you can kind of, roll your own, or, kind of mix up your own recipe for this. The idea is, what we want to do is we want to have something here that shows up when, our data or some information is in one state, and then maybe an alternative JSX block that shows up when we're in another state. So you can use an if statement. You could wrap this in a function and then return either this value or the other value. That's like another technique, and that's listed in the React docs too. So you can look up some more techniques too, depending on your situation. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope that that's maybe informative and provides some useful information to you.